The Silent Giants, The Untold Story of Rapa Nui. Introduction: The Loneliest Rock in the Sea. Close your eyes and imagine a point in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Now move 2,000 miles away from the nearest solid ground. You are standing on a tiny, triangular speck of volcanic rock, barely 63 square miles in size. This is Rapa Nui, known to the rest of the world as Easter Island. It is, quite literally, the most remote inhabited place on the planet. But you aren't alone here. Surrounding you, rising out of the tall grass and staring with hollow eyes toward the horizon, are the moai. Massive, heavy, and haunting, these stone titans have stood watch over this island for centuries. They are the silent witnesses to a story that has been misunderstood for generations. For years, the official story of Easter Island was one of tragedy and failure, a cautionary tale of a people who destroyed their environment for the sake of their idols. But today, the stones are telling a different story. It is a story not of collapse, but of incredible resilience, engineering genius, and a spirit that refused to break even when the world grew small. In this audio journey, titled The Silent Giants, we are going to explore the 5 chapters of Rapa Nui's existence. We will travel from the legendary arrival of the first kings to the high-tech archaeological discoveries of the 21st century. We will debunk myths, solve engineering riddles, and rediscover the humanity behind the heavy stone brows of the moai. Get comfortable. We are heading to the navel of the world. Chapter 1: The Navel of the World, The Voyage of the Bold. To understand Easter Island, we have to look at the water. The Pacific Ocean isn't just a body of water, it's a highway. Thousands of years ago, while Europeans were still afraid to sail out of sight of land, the Polynesians were the undisputed masters of the sea. Legend tells of a great king named Hotu Matua. He lived on a mythical island called Hiva, a place that was slowly sinking into the sea. His priests had a dream of a new land, a lonely island rising from the waves, and so Hotu Matua led 2 great canoes across thousands of miles of open blue. How did they do it? Without a compass, without a map, and without a single landmark, these navigators read the stars like a book. They felt the temperature of the water, watched the flight patterns of birds, and sensed the subtle echo of waves hitting distant land. When they finally stepped on the white sands of Anakena Beach, they didn't see a wasteland. They saw a paradise of palm forests and seabirds. They named it Te Peto o Te Henua, the navel of the world. This chapter explores the early days of the Rapa Nui civilization. We look at the sophisticated social structure they brought with them, a world of chiefs, priests, and master craftsmen. We examine the first settlements and the incredible bravery it took to commit to a life on an island where there was no turning back. Once you arrived at Rapa Nui, you were there for good. The nearest neighbors were weeks of sailing away. This isolation didn't weaken them. It forged them into a culture unlike any other on Earth. They didn't just survive. They began to build. Chapter 2: The Birth of the Moai, How the Giants Walked. If you want to know what a culture values, look at what they build. The Rapa Nui people valued their ancestors. They believed that when a great leader died, their spirit, their mana, could be captured in stone to protect the village. And so the era of the moai began. Nearly every statue on the island was carved in a single place, Rano Raruku, a volcanic crater where the stone was soft enough to work with basalt tools. Imagine hundreds of carvers working at once, the sound of stone hitting stone echoing through the crater. The moai weren't just statues, they were living faces. They were carved face up, their backs still attached to the bedrock until the very last moment. But carving a 20-ton statue is one thing. Moving it across 10 miles of rugged volcanic terrain is another entirely. For decades, Western scientists were baffled. They assumed the islanders must have used wooden rollers, which would have required cutting down every tree on the island. But the local oral tradition always said the same thing: the statues walked. In this chapter, we explore the walking theory. Recent experiments by archaeologists like Carl Lipo and Terry Hunt have shown that the moai were engineered with a D-shaped base. By using 3 teams of ropes, the islanders could rock the statues back and forth, causing them to shuffle forward in a standing position. It wasn't magic, it was physics. We also look at the pukao, the massive red stone topknots or hats that sit atop the heads of the most important statues. Weighing up to 12 tons, these were hatted after the statues reached their platforms. we dive into the sheer scale of the labor, the logistics of feeding the workers, the communal pride of the villages, and the moment a moai finally had its eyes opened with white coral and obsidian, bringing the ancestor spirit to life. Chapter 3: The Cult of the Birdman, Change in the Wind. Nothing lasts forever. By the 1600s, the world of Rapa Nui was changing. The climate was shifting, the forests were thinning, and the old way of life, the era of the great statues, was coming to an end. This is the period most people call the collapse, but the truth is much more fascinating. The Rapa Nui people didn't disappear, they adapted. As the political power of the old chiefs faded, a new religion emerged, the cult of the Birdman, Tangata Manu. The focus shifted from the ancestors to the creator god, Makemake. The center of the island's world moved from the quarry at Ranovaraku to the clifftop village of Orongo. The Birdman competition was a brutal, high-stakes ritual. Once a year, representatives from the different tribes would gather at the edge of a 1,000-foot cliff. Their task? To swim through shark-infested waters to the tiny island of Moto Nui, find the first egg of the sooty tern, and swim it back, unbroken. The winner's chief would be the Birdman for the year, wielding absolute power over the island's resources. This chapter explores this transition. We look at why the moai were eventually toppled, not by enemies, but by the islanders themselves as they moved away from the old gods. We examine the shift from a society of monumental builders to a society of fierce competitors and survivalists. This wasn't a failed culture, it was a culture reinventing itself to face a harsher reality. The Birdman cult was a brilliant way to manage tribal conflict without resorting to all-out war, proving that even in their darkest hours, the Rapa Nui were masters of social engineering. Chapter 4: The Ecocide Myth, The Truth About the Trees. For the last 30 years, the most popular story about Easter Island has been ecocide. Authors like Jared Diamond use the island as a metaphor for the modern world, claiming that the islanders were so obsessed with their statues that they cut down every tree, caused their soil to wash away, and descended into cannibalism and war. It's a powerful story, but according to modern science, it's mostly wrong. In this chapter, we perform a peer correction on the history of Rapa Nui. New archaeological evidence shows that the islanders were actually incredible environmental stewards. When the forest disappeared, partly due to the arrival of the Polynesian rat, which ate the seeds, the people didn't give up. They invented rock gardens. By covering their fields with millions of broken volcanic rocks, they created a mulch that kept the soil moist, protected it from the wind, and leached minerals into the ground. They were farming the windswept plains with a level of sophistication that modern organic farmers would envy. They shifted their diet from deep-sea fish to sweet potatoes and chickens, building thousands of stone manavai, or planters, to protect their crops. We also address the myth of the Great War. While there was certainly conflict, the thousands of obsidian spearheads found on the island turned out to be general-purpose tools for farming and woodcutting. The Rapa Nui didn't destroy themselves. They were thriving in a treeless environment right up until the moment the outside world found them. This chapter is a testament to human grit and the ability to find a way forward when the environment turns against you. Chapter 5: The Lost Script and the Stolen Future. In the final chapter of our story, we look at the two greatest tragedies of Rapa Nui: the loss of its language and the arrival of the Old World. Rapa Nui is the only island in Polynesia to have developed its own written language, Rongorongo. Beautiful, complex glyphs carved in wooden tablets, written in a reverse Bosterfoden style, where you must turn the tablet 180 degrees after every line. To this day, no one has been able to fully decipher it. Why? Because the people who could read it were taken. In the 1860s, Peruvian slave raiders arrived on the shores of Rapa Nui. They kidnapped nearly half the population, including the king, the priests, and the elders who held the knowledge of the Rongorongo script. Most died in the guano mines of Peru. By the time the survivors were allowed to return, they brought with them smallpox and tuberculosis. The population plummeted from thousands to just 111 people. This is the real collapse of Rapa Nui. Not an internal failure, but an external catastrophe. But our story doesn't end in tragedy. We look at the Rapa Nui of today. Against all odds, those 111 survivors rebuilt their culture. Today, there are nearly 10,000 people on the island. They are reclaiming their land, restoring the moai, and teaching their children the language of their ancestors. The moai no longer just look at the sky. They look at a living, breathing people who refuse to be erased from history. Rapa Nui isn't a museum of a dead civilization. It is a vibrant, modern community that stands as a bridge between the ancient voyagers and the future of our planet. Outro: The Lesson of the Giants. We have traveled from the first canoes of King Hotumatua to the modern-day struggle for cultural sovereignty. Easter Island is more than a mystery to be solved. It is a mirror.
It shows us our capacity for great art, our ability to innovate under pressure, and the devastating impact of our contact with one another. The Moai remain. They have seen the trees fall, the birdman climb, the slave ships arrive, and the tourists return. They stand as a reminder that remoteness is a matter of perspective. To the rest of the world, Rapa Nui is the edge of the map. To the people who live there, it is the center of everything. We hope this journey has changed the way you look at those famous stone faces. They aren't just curiosities. They are the heart of a people who prove that no matter how small your world becomes, your spirit can still be as large as a mountain. If you like content like this, deep dives into the mysteries of history, the truth behind the myths, and the resilience of the human spirit, please like this content and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep the stories of the past alive and ensures that the silent giants are never forgotten. What mystery should we explore next? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, keep looking toward the horizon. Thank you.